There are many qualities that are valued universally: love, peace, as well as freedom. And so often we feel freedom is a function of something outside, that the situation outside determines whether I am free or in bondage. There's a wonderful saying about a bird in a cage that suddenly discovered that the door was always open. That it's actually something inside that keeps me in bondage or gives me the experience of freedom. I explore the resources inside the cell, the inner world, the world of thoughts, feelings, attitudes, perspectives, beliefs, past experiences, and the most powerful, consciousness, awareness. These are actually the attributes that determine whether I experience freedom or not. My own attitude can restrict me, as can my awareness, or even more simply, my own thoughts. What is the key to unlock the cage inside? The capacity to move beyond limitations, the impact of the temporal, the pressure of time, past or future. What can take me beyond all of that? Is the concept of reality I am working with, my awareness. If I believe that I am physical, then I am deeply affected by physicality, the temporal, the outer world. But if I understand I'm actually not physical, spiritual, a soul, then I am actually much more powerful, much more unlimited than anything physical or temporal. That I am a master of the physical or temporal. Then I am free. The impact of this inner freedom, this switch in awareness, is that I become the master of the self, and uninfluenced by whatever's happening outside. Om Shanti. So YouTube, the journey. So exploring something that's so cool. So we're talking about through spirituality or a spiritually based freedom. And what is that about? And actually, I've been having a certain awareness in my mind because we've been given an assignment. Brahma Kumari centers around the world. We've been given an assignment, which is to reduce to zero. It's like, to reduce waste emissions. So we've also been asked to reduce this inside to zero. It's waste activity in our head because it really does, spiritually or vibrationally speaking, pollute the atmosphere and definitely is hard on the self. So just observing what's going on. It's so fascinating. It's a situation, see attachment or desire. Most times, 90% of the times, ego playing. He steps in against, it's like the voice of the self, I, the soul. This, I'm just not interested kind of feeling. It's a sense of instant freedom, like this incredible weight has been lifted from the soul, and now I'm free to function as I truly am. So this inner freedom is actually a creation of true person, true character. So it's not look at concepts of freedom, it's still to soul consciousness, true soul, and then comes a true personality. So in freedom is liberating the true personality, integrity of the true personality, true nature, so that in the situation I'm able to show up as I truly am.
It's interesting you mention in no matter what situation. So, and you're saying that things flare up inside. So this is a bit specific, but perhaps you can share what the inner dynamics are in terms of this aspect of addictions, because addictions could be very overt, but they could be quite subtle as well. So, is it a process? Is it, obviously we know it's not an overnight thing. So how do I manage that as things flare up so that eventually, I am actually moving forward and the grip of those addictions are lessening until it becomes just like zero waste, that it doesn't have its grip on me.
Helpful. Turns out that this inner freedom is actually a direct function of this freedom to purity. And so I need to actually accumulate this power of purity. I need to kind of time this journey. So I need lots of patience, lots of understanding, lots of tolerance. I heard this word tolerance come up so much when we look at the stories of the original students of the organization, such as Brahma Baba, and the original, we call them daddies or seniors. These stories of their degree of tolerance, that the addictions will flare. So works is central. So don't get upset with the self, which is only feeding the addiction. But understand the team trying to do some I have to keep on. So I'm going to sit in a cave, self enlivenment, and the emerge. I'm actually going to work through addiction. We call it addiction, addictive substance, like an alcoholic, and that's kind of the setup. So it's going to put, but also do just call where I keep some history. That's why I have patience. It takes time. So it starts to actually start to see it's impossible to do dictionaries. So something might flow, some will happen. It's really a turning point in the journey. Of course, the final destination is when it's completely gone. So it's not even. So there's steps along the way. I need to kind of what the journey to inner freedom looks like. So I'm not surprised, help, disheartened, and I just continue trusting that as I move on.
Could you share more about this aspect of the power of yoga and this melting, as it sounds? I'm sure for souls, very appealing versus this battle that goes on inside, trying to let it go, and then I succumb to it, and then I feel bad.
I still so much influence in this, but there's something that happens to us. Actually, there's something that happens to us at this point because of the extent, especially whenever we are relating or connecting to. So the classic example I gave is Canada. I personally think we don't have much accent when we speak, but apparently we do. If I was talking to someone who had a British or a Texan or a Scottish accent, and an accent that seems really different, after just a short period of time, I suddenly start to find myself taking on that accent. That's how easily we're colored. So looking at simple habits, connecting to the truth, to what is eternal, to be colored by a deep relationship with a deep relationship with the truth. So start taking on the body, something temporary. So as I connect to the truth, I'm so colored by the experience, and that color transforms or switches the falsehood. It's very natural to process, just as when I'm speaking to someone taking that accent, my own so-called accent is merging. It's just not there. And just constantly happened. So exposing myself to the truth melts falsehood.
About that we are spiritual beings. We use this word, soul consciousness is, and we actually use this phrase, detached observer, which I think for some, they may have a neutral experience, for some, they can have a positive experience, and some, they may have a negative experience. But regardless, it's the experience and refining that. How does this aspect of the power of yoga and the melting piece help in terms of being able to observe yourself? As you had talked about letting go, is it like I'm just constantly having to let go, and that letting go becomes more powerful than succumbing, And so it's still, again, a gradual, it's a little bit more each day or a little bit more each time.
It's a shift in consciousness, it's a shift in reality, a shift in perspective. So let's give a really simple example again, that we have someone who's an astronaut, and before they launch into outer space, they're down here on the Earth, day-to-day life, and they're trying to be calm. Someone cuts in front of them, they become upset. It's just a natural, almost addictive reaction. I think many of us have experienced if we're honest. With the little details of day-to-day life, emotionally affected. Get on the ship, launch into outer space, they're in a different perspective completely. They're seeing the big picture. And suddenly those little petty things just don't matter. And a lot of things seem petty from that big picture, that big perspective. So it's a very natural emotional shift that happens through a shift in understanding or perspective. That's what we're trying to have. So just a huge part of the spiritual journey and developing a relationship, which is very important. That becomes real to me. And it's not wrong because it's this, again, this relationship with truth, into a different perspective, experiencing it, becoming it, it becomes, there's such a natural change in thoughts and feelings, etc. So you can keep spending time in truth and being colored by the truth. It's like a replacement. It's there's a little thing that's just a transformation.
This aspect of, it's interesting, you talked about the astronaut, and so much of this study is about knowledge. One of the things, though, it does come up a lot actually, and it just came up in class for regular students on Sunday about being able to know the difference when something is intellectual and something that is actually practically feels very real. And so we're using these words, awareness versus when something is just a thought. When you use the example of an astronaut going into space, I mean, it's like I can't imagine when you're up there that it just feels quite obvious, as you share. It's a small little world. But in spirituality seems a lot more subtle. Even if you ask the astronaut, if you could just, they haven't been to space, but they're not even recalling their experience, but just say, picture yourself as if you're out of space. Do you think you'll have the same feelings? I guess you would have to ask them if it's would be just something that you're just trying to imagine. So in spirituality, it seems like it's quite subtle to be able to know if you actually have gone there. Could you share about being able to feel the difference ahead of time? Because often what I hear from a lot of students is that they thought they were really actually just embodying a sense of reality inside, but it was still just a very intellectual thought. And then at the time when they really need to be able to tolerate a situation or really let go, not react versus respond, they realize, I don't know if I really had that much of a sense of reality like I thought I did.
Sometimes wonder, we kind of get, talked recently with students that came first generation, 1930s, according to Jordan, is how accurate or key thing that they weren't in education, did not complete high school, so they weren't really to be intellectually very sensible, but there wasn't that tendency to go into intellectualism. And there was simple thinker and just go into experiences with complete trust. Do think a lot, and even think so much that we put aside the foundation of spirituality, which is experiencing myself to be a spirit, a soul. Very simple practice. So the intellectual, just trying to remember. So keep things very simple. I heard a story recently that fascinated me. It was from a supply teacher. Sometimes we call it a substitute teacher. And this supply teacher usually does high school students, but things are quite challenging now. So they're actually doing special ed kids, which fascinated me because they're not trained really. We also grade one, which is such a stretch for the grade two. And they just adjust. They've been doing it for decades. They're very good. And she was pulled to say this. So she was explaining a lesson that they do that day. So these are children. They're doing a lesson of that day, and my jaw was dropped. She explained, yeah, the lesson today was to explore something and there's nothing. Then, doing something it's such a wonderful opportunity at that young age to understand the difference between the self and matter, between the soul and body. And I think that we do understand, this was so fascinating, is that to catch that age in terms of what so of course not what happened. These are things that I had a chance to learn, which one probably could go spirit easily. Just for me, trying to go so much stuff. Used to be so clean stuff. It's actually difficult. It's difficult for us to go this simple concept to actually dumb down our inner activities so we can see the humility that is required to be simple and that cannot be understood intellectually.
Thank you, Sister Judy. Seems like this, I wouldn't say complicated, but when you talked about step-by-step process about addictions, patience is a big thing. I will just leave it at the last question. Talk about patience, courage, understanding. What allows one to afford to be able to have that? I really appreciate when you said buying time, because we often learn in the course that the amount of percentage of time that there's a power of yoga or even just the experience of soul consciousness is very poor in the day. So it seems like a lot of time, which I won't say wasting time, where, you could really be a target to your addictions, to your reactivities. So then it can make souls feel like, then why should it even bother in the first place? But affording to be able to have that patience, would it just be disinterest? There must be more to it.
So much faith in human beings and the human soul. And I also believe 200% that we are souls. So, in fact, that I see again and again, there's a position, resistance, a lot of addiction, the physicality, souls just don't quit. They might go back because this sort of internal awareness that I am a soul, this tiny little flame of recognition that might even be unconscious, just keeps going, keeps us going. So to just trust, I guess, that we are destined to return to spiritual age. Yes, it may look disheartening. This really going to can come all these different mechanisms of opposition from resistance from inside. But do you faith in the human spirit that each of us individually, collectively, will restore that kind of spiritualness and to be like patience that to this one single point, even if you don't feel it, if you percentage at this time, explore. Do you have so two options, of course. Either you have a faith or you have a faith in your soul. It's an important question because it's the foundation of entire life. Do you have a faith? So if the answer is no, take watching these sessions, but because it'll be quite annoying to you. But if your answer is yes, keep revising that. Something is a course of honesty. Some questions can't rule out some serves. I think souls doesn't serve. It's like it doesn't really something we get concerned if we see prejudice or discrimination or disenfranchisement. But in those times, the souls really don't judge our skin, etc. And sometimes we throw ourselves all over the so the person doesn't do something that impacts how they interact with it. So all this package to T each being so thank you, Sister Julie. I think that I know what our next topic is about, really connecting our living experience to soul consciousness. So I will remember that. Maybe someone online is going to remember and remind us. So we'll have a little reflection. Deeply at my activity. Let's try. Let's do it. A huge part of it is to have some sense of my own value. I perform tasks, they make me feel competent, there is achievement. I like to appeal to others as a certain kind of person. So much of my activity during the day is about shame about the self. I'm trying to take that from the underworld. And so it goes up and down the coaster. But what if I'm conditioned like everything is an experience, and this thing, the seed of that experience, the foundation, it can't be connected to it's temporary, changing. Something that is independent of the physical, because the physical is temporal. I open to the possibility. So temporary. But turning physical, spiritual, traveling through time, observing this most curious and wonderful possibility of the soul. That I am soul, expressing and experiencing through the body. And there's so much to discover about myself as a soul. Om Shanti.
Shanti, thank you for joining with us this evening. For those online, we had a little bit of an issue with the audio in the beginning. Thank you for your patience. Just a one reminder, learn about meditation will be taking place next week. This coming weekend on Saturday, 12:15 to 1:30. Oh my God, the timing, right? We do require for souls to register. So not to drop in, actually to register. This is the request from the Academy front desk. So if you go to the website, brahmakumaris.ca/Calgary, you go to the events page, you will see that Learn About Meditation is under the on-site events, and you'll be taken to an Eventbrite page and to register. But when you have registered, please make sure that you go to the front desk to check in. They just do that with all of the attendees for any of the sessions they have there. We also have our drop-in sessions at the Inner Peace Center on the Mondays in English. I think it's Wednesdays in Hindi at the Inner Peace Center. And of course, all of our online sessions as well. So we also have World Meditation Hour on the 19th. So that's on Sunday at 6:30 online for English, and on-site and online for on-site at Inner Peace Center if you want in Hindi, but it's also offered online. And so thank you for joining with us. Om Shanti.